Welcome to PowerBlock, guys, where today we salute another hero of high performance. He's a two-time NHRA Funny Car World Champion, second on the all-time win list in that division with 40. He drives at 331 miles per hour, and today, Tony Pedregon is in the house. Tony will join us a little later, but up first, an all-new horsepower with stage 3 of our Lean Green Street Machine project.
Okay, our 92's 305 is on the hook, and we're on the job with phase 3 of our Lean Green Street Machine project. A few weeks ago, we challenged ourselves to pump up the power in this Camaro we bought for $4.5 grand, and at the same time, make it even more fuel efficient. In phase 1, we reprogrammed the computer, changed all the fluids to synthetic, gave it new plugs, wires, and distributor components, and installed a cold air kit. A week later in phase 2, we upgraded the trans with a shift kit, added a converter lockup controller, plus installed headers and a larger catback exhaust system. Also, we upgraded the electric fan and water pump. With those two stages combined, we gained 20 horsepower and 40 foot-pounds of torque. At the same time, we improved mileage from 20 to 22 miles a gallon.
Now it's time to get a little more aggressive with our small block. See, we've got a few tricks up our sleeve that are going to make this thing run a lot more efficient, lose a little bit of weight, and even make more horsepower.
First, remove the valve covers and lift off the intake manifold. Next, the rockers, and then the push rods can go. Then, with a pry bar, loosen and remove the cylinder heads. Now, use a magnet to remove the lifters, then the lifter retainers. Next, pull off the lower pulley and the harmonic balancer. After that, roll the motor over to drain out the coolant. After removing the oil pan, the timing set can come off. And we're ready to remove the cam and rear main seal. At this point, the oil pump and pickup can also go. Now we need to turn the crank so we can stamp the rods for reference. Then remove the rod and piston assemblies, the main caps, and finally the crank. Is that fast enough? Now the guys at Huntsville Engine and Performance will do the 3-angle valve job, bore and hone the block, and balance the rotating assembly. But first, I'm going to put a contour edge on the crankshaft's counterweights as soon as I give it a bath. This is something you want to do before machining, just in case you nick one of the journals. Radiusing the edges of the counterweights will reduce drag on the crank as it spins through the oil. Also, by smoothing this side only, it keeps oil away from the spinning mass of the rods. Now it's ready to go to the machine shop along with the block and heads. And that's where they'll turn down the mains and the rods to get it within spec, and then they'll go ahead and balance it. They added some weight to compensate for what I took off the 6 counterweights before they balanced it. Then they polished the journals. And while that was going on, the machinist was boring the cylinders. Then he bolted up a torque plate to hone the cylinders for a crosshatch finish. They also cut the valve seats for a 3-angle valve job. And always do your homework before you hire a machine shop to work on your block. Ask around and see who's got a good reputation. The guys at Huntsville Engine and Performance did a great job as usual. So once we get everything loaded up, we'll head back to our shop and start putting it all together. So we'll see you after the break.
Welcome this week's hero of high performance, two-time NHRA World Champion, Tony Pedregon. Welcome, Tony.
I'm glad to be here. I'm a huge fan and a big enthusiast.
We're excited to have you. So what's more difficult, defending your funny car championship or winning it in the first place?
Well, I think without a question, winning the first one, at least it lets you know that everything is in the right place. You've got the good equipment, you've got consistency, and that's the tricky part.
And what's it like to race at 331 miles per hour?
Well, these cars, they generate 7,500 horsepower, 0 to 100 miles an hour in under 1 second. So at 331 miles an hour, your life goes by pretty fast.
Man, those speeds must be devastating on the engine.
Yeah, they really are. These cars generate 7,500 horsepower, and they're supercharged, and they run on nitromethane. So you can imagine we're asking a lot, and that's the reason we use a full synthetic formulated by Q and heat activated. So that's pretty important in this type of application.
It's time to put our lean green Camaro's motor back together after a trip to the machine shop. In addition to the block and crankshaft, those guys also resized our connecting rods. Now here's where they took weight off the balancing tabs, and they added new hardware, so these guys look good to go.
We just got finished installing bearings in our block, and this time we're going to try something new from Federal Mogul. It's their new A-series bearings that actually have silicone mixed in with the aluminum and tin. Now the silicone is there for wear resistance, and believe it or not, the tough surface can actually polish the journals of the crankshaft. Now we can lube up the bearings and drop in the crankshaft.
Before we put our main caps on, I'm going to show you all how to check your clearances without all those expensive tools. This one's called plastic gauge, and you can pick it up at any auto parts store for about $1. Lube up the journal and place about 1 inch of string on it. Then drop on the cap and torque it down. Then remove the cap and place the paper gauge next to the flattened string. It should be between 2 thousandths, which is the green bar, and 3 thousandths, which is the white bar. We're in the ballpark. Now, if your plastic gauge is crushed too much, we don't have enough clearance, and we'd end up with a bearing failure. Now, to fix that, we would have to take the crankshaft back to the machine shop so they could polish it for more clearances. Now, if it wasn't crushed enough, we have too much clearance, we'd end up with low oil pressure. If that was the case, we would use a set of X bearings, which are thicker. With the main caps in place and oil on the bolts, we can torque them to 70 foot-pounds.
The camshaft we're sliding in this block is a Performer Plus from Edelbrock. Now it's a good choice for a daily driver motor because of its smooth idling and low to mid-range torque. The duration at 50 thousandths is 212 on the intake, 222 on the exhaust. And with the camshaft in place, we can install the factory cam plate and fasteners using some Loctite. All right, now it goes without saying, anytime you swap out a camshaft, it's smart to go ahead and replace the timing set. Now this one's a double roller that we got from Edelbrock, and we're going to install it straight up.
There's no need to splurge for a new timing cover since the old one's just fine, as long as you use new gaskets to keep everything sealed up.
All right, to finish the rotating assembly, we fitted our resized rods with a set of Federal Mogul bearings, and the lighter flat top pistons came from Speed Pro. Now these things are going to fit a little tighter than normal, and that's because of a special aluminum alloy they use. It doesn't let the piston expand as much as others. Now they come with rib skirts, and that's for better oil retention, and as soon as we install the rings, we can drop them into the block.
Remember to oil the piston pins, the cylinder walls, the pistons and rings themselves, and put assembly lube on the rod bearings. Now we install the gaskets with some silicone onto the rear main housing that we clean with our Blast-It-All machine.
We opted for a low-budget upgrade for the Camaro's oiling system, a basic OE-style pump, pickup and drive, again from Federal Mogul. Before final installation, however, we're going to check for clearance with the oil pan in place. Then we can weld the pickup to the pump. Well, next, he ain't pretty, but he still works. Well, I'm not talking about Buddy or Mike. I'm talking about this stock oil pan, which we're going to reuse after a little modification. Now, this is one of the cheapest ways to free up horsepower. It's an oil crank scraper. It removes oil from the crank and rods and frees up a little extra horsepower. Here's how it goes on. First, a little silicone. Then we put it in place, and it should be fitted about 45 thousandths from the rods and 35 thousandths from the counterweights. Now, a new gasket goes in place. Thanks, buddy. And by the way, I think you're pretty.
Oh, gee, thanks.
We're also going to reuse the stock GM heads that we painted up a little bit, along with new gaskets and hardware. Plus, since it's always good to use matching components, we're going to swap springs for these Edelbrock Sure Seats to get the most out of that cam we installed. Now, it might be a lot easier to do all that work right here on the bench, but tell you what, we're going to do it with the heads on the block just like you do it at home. That is, after we get these things bolted up and take a short break. Tell you what, I like the way these Fel-Pro bolts come with thread sealant already on them.
Yeah, it makes life a lot simpler.
Yeah, it's quicker too. Now, as promised, we're going to show you how to swap springs in your heads with them bolted to the block. And hey, to make things fair, heads I show them, tails you show them, okay?
All right.
You ready?
Yep.
All right. Oops.
Kind of looks like tails from here. First, make sure you cover the valley with a rag and the intake ports with tape to prevent valve locks from falling into the block. Next, to keep the valves in the head, you need to run air into each cylinder using a compression gauge hose and your air compressor hose. Then install this handheld spring compressor. And with the spring fully compressed, you can remove the locks and the old spring. Finally, use the compressor to install the new spring along with the locks. Give the valves a light tap to make sure the locks are in place. After that, we can install our new Edelbrock hydraulic roller lifters. Then the lifter retainers, the valley pan. With lube in place, we can install the push rods. And the roller rockers that we ordered from Summit. These are 1.52. That will give us a little more lift than our stock 1.5s. With that finished, a little black Duplicolor paint will dress things up a bit before we move on.
All right, we could get away with reusing the stock intake manifold, but there's a little bit of a downfall. The intake runners actually split off to 2 cylinders. So we're going to use this Edelbrock Performer that's a little taller for more volume. And check out these runners. They go to individual cylinders. So that's going to give us more horsepower and torque.
If the motor you're rebuilding has a carburetor on it, you want to take it apart, clean it, and replace a few of the components. Same thing applies with our TBI unit. It got a good bath, and we're going to replace the injectors. Now, we got our stock replacements from the O'Reilly parts store down the road, and it comes with all the gaskets and seals that we might need. So first, we remove the cover and pull out the old injectors. See the little pin? The new injector pin slides into that relief. After applying lube to the new O-rings, the injector can go in place. Then with the new gaskets in place, we can put the cover back on. And with the spacer in place, we can bolt the TBI onto our new intake manifold.
There's one final component for this engine. This rubber ring between the stock balancer halves gets brittle over time, and well, this outer ring could actually come loose. So this lighter, smaller replacement from Pioneer could be pretty cheap insurance against engine damage. Well, now comes the least exciting part of this rebuild, reinstalling the factory accessories, distributor, then dropping the motor in, making all the connections, checking everything. You got time for all that? Of course not. You want to move on to the fun stuff like firing this thing up and seeing how much power we made, right? And we can do that after I finish filling up the motor with this break-in oil from Royal Purple, and Buddy installs those Denso Iridium Plus plugs. Oh, and tires? Yeah, we got tires.
Wider tires are better for handling, but since we're going lean and green, these Yokohama Avid Tourings we got from Summit are going to work better for us. See, they're narrower, so there's less of a contact patch on the road, which translates to better fuel economy. Now, we're going to use our Patton's nitrogen tank to fill these things up. Now, nitrogen doesn't expand or contract as much as air due to temperature changes, so that's going to be good for up to 3% better fuel economy and a lot better tread wear. All right, we just got done driving the car about 400 miles to break in the new engine. And we've also installed the SunPro vacuum gauge on the A-pillar. Now what that's gonna do is let us know when the engine's under a load and it's using the most fuel. Now we're gonna drive it around with all the new components and see how they do on fuel mileage. So let's fill it up.
Hey, Gally, I think we've got a reason to celebrate not only better fuel economy, but on our final run, 178 horsepower, 259 foot-pounds of torque. Now, let's see where we've come since day one of this project. From a baseline of 144 horsepower, 224 foot-pounds of torque, and 20.3 miles a gallon, to this, an improvement of 34 horses, 35 foot-pounds of torque, and almost 3 miles a gallon. Well, it's so long to the lean green street machine, but we'll be right back.
Hey, buddy, will you bring me that cam card?
Okay.
All right, the camshaft is often considered the brains of any engine, so you don't want to cause it or yourself any headaches when it comes to excessive wear on the cam lobes. Now, it all starts by getting the proper valve height and spring pressures. Now, it's not all that hard to do, and it won't cost you much of anything but time. First, let's get acquainted with the card that comes with your camshaft. Now, it has the specs for the spring requirements in this box. This first number is for the springs recommended for this camshaft. These numbers are the open and closed spring rates, and they're measured in pounds. This number here is the installed spring heights, and they're measured in inches.
All right, to show you how to measure valve and spring heights, we're going to remove one spring and a valve stem seal from this Edelbrock aluminum head. Using a spring compressor, compress the spring, remove the locks, then the spring. Okay, now you install your height mic over the valve, install your retainer and your locks, pull up on the retainer, hold in the height mic, and unscrew it to expand it. Make it tight, and that's what we come up with, 1.845, and that's our installed height. If you don't have a height mic, a veneer caliper will work just as well. It will get you in the ballpark. Just basically put it on the head, bring it to the bottom of the retainer, and we got 1.847. Here's a little tip. Put some tape on the ruler so you can reference it a lot quicker because you got 16 valves you got to check. So we'll put our spring in here, pull it on down to our reference mark. As you can see, we only got 100 pounds and we should have 130. This is where the shims come in handy. They come in 3 different sizes. You got a 15, a 30, and a 60 thousandths thick. So we'll put a 60 in there and see what kind of pressure we get. Bring it back down to the mark again. We've got 120. What we're shooting for is 130. That's it. It takes 2 60,000 shims, so they go under the spring and then assemble the head. There is a certain way shims go. The serrations go down or where it says this side up. On the black ones, it doesn't matter which side goes down. Put on your shims. Put on your seal. Your spring. Retainer. And the locks. And then you want to give it a little bit of a tap to make sure these locks don't come flying off. And done. This procedure will take you a little bit of time to do, but it not only saves you money, but it also saves your cam from excessive wear and keeps your valves from floating at high RPMs.
What's hotter than a 5.7-liter Hemi under your Mopar's hood? Well, how about one that's equipped with an air raid quick fit system? Now, this thing features a cool air dam that seals to the underside of your hood to keep out that unwanted engine heat. It also comes with a reusable high-flow air filter and this modular intake tube that resists heat better than steel or aluminum. Now, these kits are available for 6.1-liter Hemis and V6s as well. As far as the price, they start out about $170. Next week, we're going to get started on a project that's been a long time coming. A couple key words, Mustang and turbo. I know you won't want to miss it, so make sure you join us for another awesome episode of Horsepower.
We are back with 2-time NHRA World Champion Tony Pedregon. Now, Tony, Quaker State has been a sponsor of yours for many years. So I imagine your Impala Funny Car is a rolling test bed for them.
Yeah, it's really evolved into a great working relationship, and this sport, it evolves so quickly. We put such a demand on our engines because they run on nitromethane, billet blocks, billet crankshafts that as the sport evolves, we need to continue to work with the R&D and the technicians at Quaker State so they can deliver the best product for this type of application.
Today on Musclecar, all about rear ends. From assembly and calibration to posies and peg legs, the Trans Am gets a power plant and a dry sump oil system. And a tricked out Olds Cutlass W31 finds its original owner.
Hey, welcome to Musclecar. You may not even recognize this car. It's our '69 Tribute Trans Am. Now, it left here a month ago. It was looking pretty sad, but since then, year one has put in over 300 hours. I'll tell you, there's not much left of the original sheet metal on this thing. In fact, the only original panel is this fender right here, and even it's been patched back together. This car started out as what looked like a good condition 400. It was even a pretty good driver. But after blowing it apart and having it blasted, the truth came out. Rust on every panel, gallons of fiberglass and Bondo. This car looked like it was pieced together by a band of monkeys working by candlelight. Since Brent and I have our hands full with Red Sled and the Comet, year one offered to take this poor bird under their wing. Now, along with extensive rust repair, they also replaced a lot of sheet metal. They even dropped in the subframe connectors, put in the rear tubs, and they hooked us up with a trick set of adjustable hood hinges. Now, the whole car has been mocked up except for this rear end. Now, we want to make sure that these brackets and everything are going to line up before we start a body work. So we're going to set up this rear axle here next. We're starting with a brand new housing, a gear set, Eaton posi, and Mosier axles. Now, all that was supplied by drivetrain specialists. Then Detroit Speed stepped up and cut it to length and got all these brackets here mounted for us. First, we're assembling the ring gear to the posi unit. For those noobs out there who don't understand what a posi is, well, stick around because we'll show you once this thing gets assembled. And once the bolts are in, use a torque wrench to tighten them to 50 pounds. We've already pressed in the race, so we can go ahead and drop in the pinion with a mock-up bearing to check the depth. How to do this? Well, use a pinion depth tool, of course. We'll take a reading with no shims first. Then add shims to bring it up to the gear manufacturer's depth specs. Next is the backlash setup. Press the bearings onto the carrier unit, then drop the assembly into the housing with no shims. Using a dial indicator, measure the distance it moves away from the pinion. Remove the pinion, drop the carrier unit back in, and measure the total distance the carrier moves in the housing. These two measurements tell us how thick the shim pack needs to be. Now we can reassemble the axle with a pinion, carrier, and shims, but without the crush sleeve. With the dial indicator, we'll measure the backlash. It's within spec, so the caps can go on. It's time to check the contact pattern on our teeth. To do that, we're going to use some of the paint supplied in the kit. We're going to apply that onto the teeth, spin the carrier around, and see where we're at. The contact patch should be in the center of the tooth. If this isn't right, you'll get that annoying gear whine. This looks good, so we'll go ahead and tear it apart one more time so we can put the crush sleeve between the pinion bearings. With the mock-up bearing out of the way, we can press in the real bearing. Time to put it all back together one last time. Drop in the assembled pinion, tap in the other bearing, the seal, and then the yoke. Tighten the yoke with an impact until you feel a drag on the pinion. Then measure the rotational load using an inch-pound torque wrench. We're looking for about 20 pounds with a consistent reading throughout the rotation. With the pinion rotation set, we can drop the carrier and shims back in and tighten the caps to 50 to 60 pounds. I checked our backlash and our tooth pattern one more time and we're looking killer. And that means we can stab in our axles here and finally button this thing up. Now if you notice on our axles, there's no indent for a C-clip. Why not? because we ain't using them. What we are going to use is a Ford 9-inch style retainer. Now this eliminates the C-clips because they can come loose, and when they come loose, you can lose your axle, and these are a whole lot safer. These retainers not only hold the axles in, they also serve as mounts for the brake calipers. I said earlier that I was going to explain to some of you younger guys what a posi is. Since we still have the original 10-bolt out of our Firebird laying around, I figured a side-by-side comparison is going to be our best bet. Now this style carrier is referred to as an open differential. That's because at any given time, power is only getting sent to one wheel. Now other terms for this rear end are one-legger or peg leg, or my personal favorite, weak. Now why do they use it? Well, it is smooth and quiet and it works awesome for your daily commute. But if you ever try to put some serious power to it, you're either going to blow the spider gears out of it or you'll end up with one wheel going up in smoke. Now the rear end we just assembled is a Positraction unit, or Posi for short. What it does is it ties both the wheels together with the pinion and eliminates all the spider gears. That way it can hold up to gobs of power. Now since both the wheels are getting equal amounts of power, you get way better traction and the potential for a lot better acceleration. Not to mention the fact, burnouts are way cooler with a Posi. Now stick around, because when we come back, we're going to start mocking up the rear end on a Firebird.
Check out my featured vehicle this week, a custom wide-body 72 Vet. Stock wasn't big enough for owner Bruce Spelter, who exaggerated all the body lines. He custom-made every fiberglass panel, lengthening the car 2.5 feet and widening it 29 inches. This showstopper's got a molded rear wing, custom Western wheels, and a beautiful tweed interior. And you're looking at 7 shades of classic candy apple paint. 8 years of labor equals 1 knockout custom.
Hey, once we finish getting our bars hooked up, we'll get our rear end put into place and start building our mounts for our coilovers. We attach the arms to the car before jacking up the rear end, so all we need to do is bolt them into place on the housing. Our rear end housing was delivered with the lower mounts for our coilovers. The upper one, it's a different story. We're gonna have to figure something out. Hey Brent, what do you think, man?
Well, we definitely can't attach it to that sheet metal right there.
Nah, just rip that right out. What do you think if we take a brace and run it from this edge and kind of arc it up and over? We can do it on both sides and actually box that whole thing in, drop a hole through it, and run a bolt through it and anchor it. Think that'd be strong enough?
Yeah, I think it would be.
If not, we'll always swear it should have been. These mounts are supporting the entire back of the car, so we'd rather overbuild them than take any chances. Now these were cut out of 1/8-inch plate. I'm mocking up the assembly before putting them in place to make sure the spacing between the plates is correct. Before welding them in place, I'll double check the angle to make sure the coilovers are vertical. Now once the welds cool down, we can mount the coilovers and mark one more thing off our list. Our one-off wheels haven't arrived yet, so we'll put these on for rollers. Now this isn't just your average run-of-the-mill restoration. There's a lot of one-off parts involved here, and since we don't want to have to make changes once we start the bodywork, we're putting the drivetrain in now. The weight of this thing can change your body panel alignment, and since it's an LS7, that means it runs the dry sump oil system in a breather, and that means something's going to have to get cut. The tranny going behind this LS7 is TCI's Super Street Fighter. It's an ultra-tough version of the 4L60E, designed to handle up to 600 horses. It can be driven as an automatic or manually shifted, so you can bang through the gears with no lag time. We're also dropping in our radiator from Be Cool so we can make sure the dry sump tank will clear. Now, every LS7 runs a dry sump system. This not only increases oil capacity, but it also cuts down on oil aeration and frees up horsepower. Now, this 2-gallon tank here from Peterson, well, this needs to find a home somewhere underneath the hood. Since the battery is migrating to the trunk, it's going to take up that real estate. We got a breather over here also that needs to be mounted, and this has to be higher than the tank. That way oil doesn't accumulate inside. The outlet on the tank also needs to be higher than the inlet on the engine so that the oil drains back to the pump. We found a good place to put it, but there's some sheet metal in the way. No problem. Well, we thought it looked pretty good until we realized it was hitting the bottom of the fender. But we can make some more room. We're patching it back in to keep the area sealed off from dirt and debris. Right on, man. It's looking good.
Yeah, I don't think it looks too bad. You need to put us a little plate or something right here to mount this bracket to, though.
Yeah, maybe box this in a little bit and get some support and bolt it in. Cool, that'll work. Well, hey, while we fab up some brackets over here, you guys can go fab yourself up a sandwich. But don't go too far, because we're going to be finishing up this dry sump system later in the show. That's good.
Up next, a solid gold Olds with all the options. Today's flashback, a 1970 Olds Cutlass W31.
Ever wish you could get back that car you had in your youth? And not just one that looked like it, but the exact same car? Well, that's what happened to Bill Baggett and his 1970 Olds Cutlass W31.
Well, I always liked Oldsmobiles. I had a used 68, and I always liked the A-body style. And this 70 model came out with the fiberglass hood and all the amenities it had. I fell in love with it.
As a college student back in 1970, Bill bought this car new off the lot and spared no expense tricking it out.
I wanted a nice car, you know, that looked good, run good.
Bill started with a Cutlass S and added the W31 package, which included a fiberglass hood with twin scoops and chrome twist locks, racing stripes down the side and on the hood, and a 325 horsepower 350 V8 with ram air induction. He also added a Muncie close ratio 4-speed with a Hurst competition shifter, rocket rally pack gauges with a tick-tock tack, a sport steering wheel, and to top it all off, an 8-track player. Nothing like a little solid gold to match that factory color, the nugget gold.
The salesman at the place where I got the car, he had some final parting words for me. He said, "Son, you better aim that cannon before you fire it."
That firepower came from the W31 engine, which had a large bore and a short stroke. With 10.5 to 1 compression, heads equipped with a 2-inch intake and an 1 5/8 exhaust valve, plus a high overlap cam, this small block really built up big power.
I had it on the strip a few times when it was new. Always had good success with it. It usually won its class wherever I put it.
But soon, Bill had to hang up his racing helmet.
After my wife and I married, 3 or 4 years later, along came baby girl. We brought her home from the hospital in it, and we figured, you know, this is not exactly the car that we would want to have in raising a family. So in 1981, we sold it for peanuts, $2,500.
20 years passed, and the car went through several owners, as well as receiving a total restoration by Richard Kitzmiller in Prairie Village, Kansas. Then one night in 2001, Bill got an unexpected phone call.
Lo and behold, it was the guy that owned the car, some 5 owners later. So he told me that he was coming to Nashville to Cool Springs Galleria. When I saw it again, I wanted to kick myself for ever selling it to begin with.
The car looked just as it did when it rolled off the lot, except a rear spoiler had been added, one of the few options Bill didn't get back in 1970. Bill managed to buy the car back from the owner a few months later. Boy, is he glad he did. Turns out this is one of only 74 still known to exist.
If you're ever able to get your car back you had when you were growing up, take good care of it. Don't abuse it like you did when you were young. You'll always be happy that you did.
Our muscle car builders try to find the missing piece of a plumbing puzzle without showing plumber's crack.
This actually needs to come in a little bit underneath that, though.
Hey, welcome back. We got a dry sump tank mounted. Now all we need to do is get our breather mounted and then run all the lines. But we got a slight problem. I can't get at the back side of the firewall, but I got a solution for you. I'm going to show you a little trick here. Riv nuts. So what's a riv nut? They're threaded inserts, also known as poly nuts. They make for an easy install in places where you can only access the front of the sheet metal. All you have to do is drill a hole, then use a thread setter tool to insert the sleeve. The sleeve gets crushed into place and threaded at the same time. A couple of these babies and the breather is good to go. With everything else in place, the lines can go in. We're using massive -12 lines to go from the tank to the breather and for the oil return from the engine to the tank. By running them over the wheel well, they'll be hidden from view, keeping a clean look in the engine bay. One of these two -6 outlets would go to an air cleaner if this was a factory setup, but we don't need it, so it's gonna get capped. The other one runs the PCV valve. Last up is one more -12 line from the tank to the inlet on the engine, right next to the outlet we ran going back to the tank. Air induction's up next. The fans are going in first, so we know how much room we'll have to run the ductwork. Well, we got a lot to work with here, and Spectra Performance makes just about anything you'd need to customize your air induction. Now, we're not really sure what all here we're going to be using, but one thing I do know is that we need to find a place for this mass airflow sensor. As for the rest of it, time to figure it out. After trying dozens of different combinations, we finally found one that works. Now, we could have put this whole thing together using the silicone couplers, but Brent had a cool idea. He TIG welded it all together and made it all nice and smooth. Now, we still have a lot of work left to do on our Tribute Trans Am, so we're going to keep wrenching and thrashing. So until next time, we're out of here.
And all new trucks and how to build a demolition derby truck coming right up. But first, here's this week's fuel saver tip.
Today's PowerBlock Fuel Saver tip is brought to you by E3 Diamond Fire Spark Plugs, the most powerful spark plugs you can buy.
A fuel catalyst can improve octane and cetane, somewhat like a catalytic converter improves exhaust efficiency. As gasoline passes through an inline fuel catalyst, its quality and octane is restored, increasing energy output. Higher fuel quality results in consistent combustion, delivering more energy and miles per gallon.
For more fuel-saving info and tips, check out shopfuelsavers.com. And now, here's an all-new trucks.
Today, we're going to a truck demolition derby, and you won't believe just how much abuse a truck can take. Then it's back to the shop to show you all the secrets that make these derby trucks so tough. It's all today here on Trucks.
Hey, welcome to Trucks. Well, people found out we're doing a derby truck on the show, so they called some people who called some other people, and our phone was ringing off the hook over the weekend. We found out they were running a derby over here at Ashland City, and the reason we showed up is...
Well, it's right here. These boys are gonna tear some trucks up. Let's check it out.
Now, there's lots of fun to be had at the county fair, but the thrill ride we're here for takes place on a field of mud and dirt.
People come from miles away to enter these demolition derbies. And truck derbies are getting more and more popular, with the full-size cars becoming harder to find and more expensive.
Whoops. There are no rules for styling, so the teams get to show some personality when it comes to paint. And there's always a bit of last-minute prep to do in the pits before the race.
Oh, great. That wouldn't even bother. We just got some hammers in.
Just like every form of racing, tech inspection is mandatory. Not only to make sure nobody's cheating, but also for safety.
To bolt the cab down, make sure the battery box is in its position of where we say it should be and bolt it down securely. Also for the fuel tank, it's supposed to be behind the cab, right in the main of the box up front. Mainly just safety and not adding any metal, and we just want to have a good show and have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
This ignition looks like a mess, but an ignition switch can fail. 2 wires stuck together is dependable, and it's only 12 volts.
Here's a little tip some of the guys use. It's pretty simple. All it is duct tape wrapped around the U-joints. What that does is that keeps the U-joint cups from just slinging out.
A roll cage is a must, and these guys don't play. Solid steel I-beams are common, and like you're about to see, a derby gets rough. With everybody getting ready in the pits, we got the chance to talk with a couple of the drivers.
There's nothing that compares to driving on that track. I've done a lot in life, a whole lot of life, fun, but there's nothing more exciting than driving on that track.
As our modern-day gladiators enter the arena, the gloves are off, and everyone knows it. This is a fight to the finish, and the last truck moving will take home the coveted Trucks TV Gearhead Trophy.
2, 1, go!
It's not total chaos, though. The officials have a keen eye for trouble. With everyone safe, it's back to business.
Carnage is everywhere, and it comes down to a standoff between these two survivors.
Down to these two.
Bent axles, superheated engines, cooked transmissions, body parts everywhere. It's amazing that these trucks even still move. And at last, a champion rises from the wreckage.
Hard hitting though. Hard hitting.
Well, how did that feel, man?
That was awesome, man. That's what it's all about right here. We're in it for the adrenaline and for the fans, sorry.
It looked like a good time,
man.
man. You rode a truck before?
This is my 3rd time. Same truck.
Well, on behalf of all of us, we want to present you with the Trucks TV trophy.
Oh, Lord. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
That's
We can put that in the rear frame rail of the next truck or something.
That's nice. That's awesome right there.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for putting on a show, man.
Congratulations, man. I have spent my whole adult life learning how to fix these things. This was beautiful. This was therapy, man. This is awesome. I can't believe it.
Drop it.
Ah! That's a bad token.
What happened to your steering?
I don't know, it just broke. I hit him, it just broke all of a sudden.
Yeah, I saw it moving a little wompish there.
Now we got 1/4-inch plate steel tying the bed to the cab corner right here and to the door. It just sheared it away, just completely ripped it out. Amazing force is applied with this stuff. It's a lesson in physics.
It's bent. Check your gauge out. Gauge broke.
Well, the only Ford in the mix is getting towed out by some road-making equipment, but hey, he gave it an honest shot. Old 360 held up real well, but he broke his thumb trying to steer it out of a wreck. Awesome. These guys are just bulletproof.
Stick around, because when we come back, we're building our own derby truck.
More Demolition Derby in a sec, but here's what's coming up later on Xtreme. It's more Jeep tech as our Xtreme team builds a TJ that's not only bomb-proof on the trails, but street legal in 50 states. Plus, we'll head to Southern California for We Rock action and a battle of the sexes.
I can wheel as good as any other guy out there.
Those guys are nuts. Hey, welcome back to Trucks. Well, the truth is some of those derby drivers might be a little on the edge, but there's method to their madness because the guys that win bring home some pretty good money. So if you've ever wanted to get involved in a motorsport on a grassroots level with a minimal investment that pegs the fun meter and with a payout at the end of it, maybe Demolition Derby is something you want to try. Now, we talked to a bunch of those guys, so between what we already know and what we found out, we're going to pass on a bunch of insider information to you guys. For instance, how to build an engine that's going to survive under extreme temperatures. Like half of those guys run in the heat, finishing it without even a radiator working. That and a whole lot more Demolition Derby tech. We found our truck has a not-so-solid, not-so-complete 79 Chevrolet that quite frankly was worth more as scrap than it was as a used truck. Now, there's still a ton of work to be done, but we've already gotten a head start by pulling the bed off, the gas tank is off, the interior is completely stripped out, all the glass is gone, the dash has been cut out, and the drivetrain was already missing. We've also unbolted the body and taken the bushings out. This thing's ready to be prepped for a derby now.
Now, every derby's got its own set of rules, and we don't want any violations to keep us from running. But you and I both know rules were designed to be bent.
Now, we're not in any danger of breaking rules, plating up the door gaps. This is a common practice and is accepted by tech inspectors. The biggest reason, other than reinforcing the body a little, is to keep the doors closed and from coming off in a battle. The universal rule of Demolition Derby is that under no circumstances do you ever hit the driver's door of another vehicle intentionally. Even so, accidents happen. Heck, the whole derby is one big collision. And this plating will help protect the driver, as well as the reinforcement that goes on inside the cab a little later on.
Just like we did to the door, we're going to weld the bed to the back of the cab using some 16-gauge sheet metal, and then later bolt the bed to the back of the cab.
We're cutting our metal strips from a sheet of 16-gauge sheet metal. You can have your metal supply shear it into strips for you for a small fee, or just use the tools you got on hand. If you're using a plasma torch, a guide clamped to your metal will give you a clean, straight cut. Another benefit of building a derby truck is that it's excellent welding practice. You can experiment with settings and you can practice laying down several different types of weld without a lot of pressure. Plating the bed to the cab is just not enough reinforcement. Bolting the cab to the bed panel and then again to the frame will help keep your vehicle from separating from the frame or blowing apart. Now in the back, we don't want to put this original bumper back on. The reason being is because if we get locked up with another vehicle and the bumpers hung up together, well, we're done. But we still want some protection. Now here's where you can interpret the rules, maybe twist them a little bit, and still not break them. For instance, we can take some of the diamond plate out of the top of the bumper, we can put it under the rail, fold it up, tie the bed to the frame. And we're not breaking the rules by adding metal that wasn't already there. This is part of the original bumper, so it's all in how you look at the rule book. Now remember, in Demolition Derby, the back end is the business end of your vehicle, especially with this truck. But unlike the original bumper, we definitely want to put the tailgate back in. The difference is we're relocating it downward, and we're going to solid weld it front and rear and across the back. Then we're going to take our bumper plates, wrap them up there, and that, hopefully, will keep this thing from blowing apart. We used the hot wrench instead of drilling holes just because it's faster, and worked over our industrial depot bins using high-quality hardware to secure the 1/4-inch plate. Larger plates spread the load out and will increase the clamping strength. And believe me, like we showed you a while ago, you are gonna need it.
After the break, we'll show you some tricks and tips from a true Derby insider. Stay tuned.
Hey, welcome back. We'll check out our battering ram now. What we've done in the corners is plate our taillights and tied the bedside into the tailgate. But we've used the same gauge sheet metal here, so technically we're not breaking rules by adding reinforcement. Here, we've seam welded the bottom of the tailgate for strength and taken our bumper plates, welded them solid to the frame rail, wrapped it up around, and welded it solid to the end of the gate. Now, a few simple tricks like this will give the business end of your Derby machine a lot more strength.
Now, up front, we're pretty much going to leave it stock. Out back, a little different story. Now, this is our truck stock 10-bolt axle. Now, the problem with it, it uses C-clips to retain the axle. What happens is the axle breaks around here. This part stays in the housing, this part slides out, and you lose a wheel. So a smart change is to the Ford 9-inch, where these 4 bolts will hold the axle in, broken or not. Now, you can still break an axle right behind the flange, and if that happens, it doesn't matter which axle you're using, you're still going to lose a wheel.
Now, some guys just run a stock drive shaft when they're derbying, but you talk to some veterans and they've got a few tricks up their sleeve here as well. For instance, this shaft is out of one of Tommy's cars. It features this agricultural PTO center section, which you can pick up at your local farm supply store. Now, the basic philosophy is that your car is going to accordion at the track or compress. Well, this thing gives you an additional nearly 30 inches of slip travel, and these heavy-duty U-joints are quite obviously stronger than the stockers, plus the fact that they give you almost 60 degrees of angle without binding, and that, my friends, will give you a serious advantage.
Now, our truck came with a small block 305, so a rebuilt and modified 350 like this one will not only drop right in, it'll also give you an edge over the competition. This engine has a typical 40 thousandths overbore with flat top pistons. It's got an Edelbrock Performer cam and bone stock heads. The valve stem seals have been removed to help with oil drain back and valve stem lubrication at higher temperatures. It's also got a high volume oil pump, again to help with heat dissipation. It turns out a respectable 240 horsepower and an impressive 342 foot-pounds of torque. Now up top, we've got an HEI distributor and an Excel coil for reliability, and an old-style cast-iron 2-barrel manifold. But here, Tommy believes that giving the coolant the ability to go straight to the water neck helps with cooling big time. So he bypasses every engine he builds with tapped water jackets that lead right into the thermostat housing, where the T-stat has been gutted, so it still acts like a slight restrictor, but eliminates the possibility of thermostat lockup. Now, another common Derby mod is these DEC headers, and they make headers for all kinds of off-road applications. These are forward dump style with a long 4-into-1 collector and are designed, like everything else, to evacuate heat from the engine bay. We had ours ceramic coated by our buddies at Nitro Plate, and with claims of up to a 20% drop in ambient air temps under the hood, well, it just gives you one more advantage over the rest of the field.
Now, this may look like a stock Turbo 400, but that's where it ends, because the guys at State Line Transmissions have done some serious internal magic with this thing. It's got machined pistons to accept more clutches, which distributes the workload over a larger area. Thereby, it works less and stays in effect longer. In fact, with all the clutch material burned off, this thing will still pull. It's also got a recalibrated valve body for extreme duty, and 98% of the internal plastic parts, shims, and retainers have all been replaced with metal, again, to last longer under intense heat. The front pump is converted to full-time lube, again, for better heat dissipation and better lubrication. And they recommend a stock 1-ton truck torque converter that stalls about 1,400 RPM. And again, this ties right into our engine is going to start making torque. Now, you can buy and modify an aftermarket shifter, or if you got time on your hands, you could even make one. But ours comes from MOP Derby products. It costs less than $150, and it features this park gear lockout pin. It's going to keep you out of trouble while you're doing battle. Now, this is pretty heavy duty, but one of the things that makes it particularly nice for a truck is because it's got a tall shifter.
Up next, we'll get our Derby truck rolling on all fours. Stick around.
Hey, welcome back to Trucks, and thanks for hanging around, because in a couple of minutes, well, we're going to find out what this beast is going to look like.
Now, a tire failure can cost you the derby, so what a lot of guys are on are these heavy-duty bi-supply truck tires with a tube. Now, since the front just acts as a rudder, we've got a tall sidewall and a narrow, skinny tread pattern. But the back, we've got an aggressive pattern with a lot of space between the lugs so we get good traction whatever the weather conditions are. And right here you'll notice that we protected the valve stem with some bolts that we got from our buddies at Industrial Depot. Maybe not the politically correct way to use grade 5 hardware, but it's going to help us.
Now, there's still a lot more to be done. We've got a simple perimeter cage to go around the driver. We've got to mount the fuel cell and the battery. But hopefully this has inspired you guys to grab that piece of junk in your backyard and turn it into something. It's big time fun, and you might make a few bucks at it.
Hey, don't scratch the paint.
Yeah, right?
Well, those of you guys that know me know that I host my own series of instructional videos geared towards painting your own car, doing body work, and rust repair. Well, if you're into the mechanical end of this hobby, here's a line of instructional DVDs that's geared toward unlocking the secrets of horsepower and building engines. The Power Building series of DVDs is hosted by my buddy Aaron Johnson. Now, Aaron's been building all kinds of engines for a long time, and he goes into great detail in this how-to series. Well, let him show you.
Pressure makes volume, and you don't believe me? That'll say it right there. And these are boosters. Each one of these is activated by the main jets inside. And you can see these rotors turn in here just like that, okay? You can imagine what that's like at 7,000 or 8,000 RPM. And instead of spraying through a spray bore, it comes around the whole perimeter of this plate and sprays evenly right on inside.
Aaron's got 7 different titles ranging from anything from the basics to superchargers, nitrous oxide, pretty much anything horsepower related, and he's adding titles all the time. You can pick up Aaron's videos for about 30 bucks at autoshopvideos.com. Thanks for watching Trucks. See you guys next time.
Hey guys, here's a heads up. The big cat is coming to my shop. That's right, the Predator monster truck is going to be prowling the tech center in 2 weeks. But right now, here's more of our dual-purpose Jeep TJ on Xtreme 4x4.
How about a hardcore trail rig that's also a reliable daily driver? Today on Xtreme 4x4, our Hemi Jeep returns to become bomb-proof. Plus, a 14-foot drop will unnerve most drivers, but not this rookie mother of 2.
That and more right now on Xtreme 4x4.
Now that is a sound that I will never get tired of hearing, and that is the sound of the Hemi that we stuffed underneath the hood of our 2003 Jeep TJ the last time we had it here in the shop. Now this Jeep's come a long way from an insurance write-off that we drove in here bone stock. You know, it didn't take that much work. Just some simple bolt-ons and some hand tools like, you know, custom suspension, both front and rear, 14-inch coilovers all the way around, some killer Dana 44 axles with 35 splines, of course, custom roll cage, some custom tube work up front, and finally, a set of 40-inch tires thrown on some aluminum bead locks. That simple, killer TJ. It really wasn't that simple. I was just kidding. Remember, we are building this rig to hit the trails and wheel with the best of them. But it's also being built to drive there, so we won't need a tow rig or a trailer. Not having to haul this Jeep is going to save us some cash on fuel, insurance, and maintenance costs of that second vehicle. Now this is exactly why a lot of people are making the switch to dual-purpose rigs. But since we have to rely on this Jeep to get us home after a serious day of four-wheeling, we want to go through the drivetrain and try to eliminate any weak links that may fail when we're out on the trail. It's going to start with a new set of CTM axle joints that we picked up from Northridge 4x4. The #1 failure in a front axle on the trail is the joint itself. The problem is, when they fail, the resulting free spinning on the axle shafts causes them to break as well. The CTM joint is strong enough to be the last U-joint you will ever buy. With its unique rebuildable feature, you can simply replace the bronze bushing in the joint if it ever wears out. Now we have 4 other potential problems that we can fix right here today because we know that they're possible weak links. First of all, we're going to replace these grade 8 bolts with something a little bit stronger holding this high steer arm onto the axle. We'll replace the brake line, not only making it longer, but also upgrading it as well. We'll use a new system to hold the spindle onto the axle shaft itself. And finally, even the oil that we put in this diff all makes a huge difference when we're on the trail. High steer arms see a huge amount of load when on the trail, especially when applying added pressure with a hydraulic assist kit. Now, ARP, chromoly studs and nuts are thread rolled after heat treatment, making their tensile strength much higher than standard fasteners. The braided brake lines from Crown Performance are not only longer to accommodate our new suspension, but the Kevlar reinforced line is braided for strength and then covered to protect it against chafing. The Stage 8 X-Lock replaces the jam nut axle retaining system used stock on most axles. It allows us to correctly torque the wheel bearing spindle nut and holds tight against any reverse rotation. There we go. Finally, the PX3 synthetic gear oil will not only help extend the gear life in our axles, the reduced friction will result in more of the horsepower from our new Hemi getting to the tires. Now, we're not just going to be installing small parts today on our TJ, we're also going to be bolting in some major components, like this 4-speed transfer case that we picked up from Advance Adapters. Now, Advance took their tried and true Atlas II transfer case and coupled a secondary reduction box onto the front of it. This was the first ever crate 4-speed case available, and it has 4 ratios in it. Our model has a 1:1, a 2:1, a 2.72:1, as well as a 5.4:1. Now the case itself is rated to accept up to 5,500 foot-pounds of input torque and can handle vehicles in excess of 11,000 pounds. The Atlas bolts right up to the automatic that came with our new Hemi, and the indexing ring allows us to fine-tune the amount of drop we have in the case. All Atlases come with a lifetime warranty. Just another item we know will not let us down when we're on the trail. The shifters will mount under the stock console on the TJ and use cables to control the shifting of our T-case. Now, we have never had an Atlas break a transmission case here at Xtreme, but we have seen pictures on the net and talked to guys to which it has happened. Now, the 4-speed is a pretty heavy transfer case, coming at just over 120 pounds. So to make sure that our transmission doesn't get damaged, we're going to add this rear support to our Atlas transfer case that we got from Rourke Fabworks. Now, it mounts around this rear machine surface and gives some extra support to take the weight off the extension housing of the transmission to keep it from breaking. Now, that'll take care of that problem, but we still have one thing that we're worried about, and that is the angle of this rear driveline. Our whole drivetrain package is pretty long, and we're concerned that when this rear suspension droops out, that this U-joint is going to get in a bind. So instead of just measuring the distance of the drive shafts, we're also going to measure the angle that it's going to travel at. I need a tape measure. Using some tape as a guide, we measure from the rear axle input flange to the transfer case output. Then, by dropping an angle finder onto the tape line, we will know the maximum operating angle the shaft will see. On the front, we just have to measure the length, because the angle is low enough due to the distance from the transfer case to the front axle. Now all we have to do is call the guys at JE Reel, give them our 2 lengths as well as the angle of the rear shaft, and they'll build us 2 perfect drive shafts for our TJ.
Coming up, she's cute, she's tough.
I do want to be taken as seriously as a man.
And determined to make her mark in her rookie year.
You're actually the same. I can wheel as good as any other guy out there.
Pro crawler Nicole Johnson, when Xtreme 4x4 continues. Look out, boys. There's a new chick in the driver's seat, and she's got your number. Here's our Xtreme event of the week.
After 5 months off, the We Rock drivers arrived at the first event full of butterflies and anticipation.
As a competitor, opening day is by far the most nervous time. I mean, you think you got it all figured out, you think you remember everything, but you just don't know.
Kicking off in the heart of off-road country,
we're super stoked on being in Southern California.
The new season brought out a crop of fresh faces who were looking to fulfill their dreams of rock-crawling glory.
This is the opportunity of a lifetime.
Most will spend their pro careers competing in anonymity. Nicole Johnson will not be one of them.
I can wheel as good as any other guy out there.
Competing last year in the 4-seat starter class.
Primarily our background is about 15 years of family trail wheeling. My husband and I have had an old 72 Land Cruiser since 1993.
This season, Nicole decided to move up to the pro mods.
I guess it's just the competitive streak in me. I just had to get a better car.
Even before her first gate, expectations were high for the mother of two.
She's an extremely capable driver, and now you get her into an extremely capable vehicle, and she's going to be a threat to those guys like Dean Bullock and Brad Lovell and Tracy Jordan.
I expect to see her up in the higher ranks there.
Putting the buzz aside, Nicole was looking for a more modest top 10 finish.
I've had other competitors tell me, no, that's not good enough. You need to make first place, because second place is the first loser. That's a really big task to bite off and chew and tell everybody that you're gonna win. Right now, we're gonna get hopefully some really good seat time, be competitive, keep everyone else on their toes.
Still, the pre-race hype almost brought the rookie to her knees.
I was really good about this competition right up until about 20 minutes before it was my turn to go on course, and I thought I was gonna throw up.
Teamed with husband Frank,
Try to dig over a little. Go to 3.
He knows exactly what the suspension's gonna do, so I put a lot of trust in him.
To get their groove, marital niceties take a back seat.
Sometimes we get a little heated and we have some exchanges. You know, I wanted to be in 3-wheel drive here, not 4-wheel drive.
You were in 3-wheel drive. Hey, Nicole, this tire was off the ground.
You know what? They should have marriage counseling at the end of every course. But no, we're not. It's good. We've gotten better.
On day 1 of the 2-day competition, the team struggled.
That's great. Go off the line. That's the way it goes.
Finishing mid-pack in the 24-car field, the Johnson team wasn't disappointed.
I think we did a great job today. We're very pleased.
Getting into the top 6 and qualifying for the shootout looked grim.
We give it our best shot, and that's all we can do.
Clawing her way into 7th place, on the 2nd day, Nicole was on fire. To punch a ticket to the shootout, it came down to the final course and the toughest of them all, A4.
3 other people's done it, that means you can do it, right?
Little Rich Klein designs the courses.
They do say I'm sick, some say I'm twisted.
His demonic mind created this monster.
We've got about a 14-foot undercut drop that a lot of people are just going for it.
Nicole Johnson may be green behind the wheel, but she's not yellow.
It was awesome. It felt really good, actually.
Wow.
She became one of the few drivers to qualify for the shootout in her debut.
You know, a little bit more, she's gonna be good.
And finishing the event in 4th, Nicole backed up the hype and proved that she's the real deal.
I don't know what the future really holds. We're just gonna take it, one season at a time. I'm just really excited to have made it this far.
Time now for an Xtreme 4x4 tech tip.
A lot of you guys know that after MIG welding for a while, you get a lot of slag built up on the end of your nozzle, causing a gas blockage. This causes porosity in your welds, which you don't want. So to prevent this, I like to dip my tip in some tip dip. The paste coats the end of the nozzle and keeps the splatter from sticking.
We're back on Xtreme 4x4, where we are really close to getting our 2003 Jeep TJ out of the shop and onto the trail, and more importantly, also onto the highway as our dual-purpose daily driver and weekend wheeler truck. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys are thinking right now, there's been a lot of parts put into this buildup. Why didn't you just fix the quarter, throw on a lift and some tires, and go wheeling? Well, we didn't do that for a couple of reasons. First of all, enough of these Jeeps have been built that you can really research every single weak link in this truck and evaluate what you want to do to it before you even start. Like we have here, we've gone through the whole Jeep and replaced everything that we know might fail on the trail. And also, this has become a real popular way of building trucks lately. Guys sell their tow rig, sell their trailer, and get rid of their weekend wheeler and put together one complete package all in one shot. Now right now, we need to deal with a couple things that have come up since we've converted this thing from a stick to an automatic. A new tail mount shifter from Locar will help us pick what gear we want. And a firewall mounted flexible transmission dipstick will replace the stock one that was damaged during shipping. Now the donor motor that we've stuffed into our Jeep did not come with all the filters and air boxes that we need. So instead of hunting around for a bunch of original equipment stuff, we're going to replace it all with an AEM cold air intake for a 2005 Dodge truck with a Hemi. The kit comes with a new 1-inch throttle body spacer. The long, smooth inlet tube is mandrel bent to help improve intake flow. Since this kit is designed for the Dodge truck, we have to modify it slightly to fit into our Jeep. Now the nice thing about the AEM kit is it uses what's called dry flow technology, which means the filter itself has no oil on it. Now that really helps out when you're installing it in an off-road vehicle like this. The oiled filters tend to sometimes get clogged up with dust and dirt. Now this filter here, if it starts to get clogged up, all we got to do is knock it around a little bit, wash it out, it's good as new. Now one item that often gets overlooked on a trail truck are brake lights and tail lights because you don't even really need them. But on a dual purpose rig like our TJ, we're going to have them. Now the downfall of the factory light is it mounts off the back of the tub and basically hangs out in the way and often gets broken when you're on the trail. And that's not that big of a deal if you're just going to throw your rig on a trailer and haul it home. But if you plan on driving it on the highway with a broken tail light, could mean a ticket. So for our TJ, we decided to replace the stock lights with a set of light dots from Off-Road Unlimited. These flush mount tail lights replace the bulky stock units, but with a lower profile and brighter LED technology. Now, no matter what engine you swap into your project, keeping it cool can become a major issue. Now, there's a lot of factors that come into play when it comes to the heating and cooling of an engine under the hood. But the main thing you got to do is get cold air in and hot air out. Now, we're in pretty good shape on our TJ because we ditched our inner fender wells. That's going to help dissipate some of the heat from our V8 and help keep it cool. But no matter how many ways we slice it, there is no way that the 6-cylinder radiator that was in our Jeep will keep our new Hemi at a good operating temperature. Now, you have a lot of different options when it comes to picking a new radiator for your project. You can research on the internet and talk to people who've built something similar. In our case, the guys who did our wiring harness suggested that we called the guys at Doc's Blocks, and they went ahead and built this full aluminum direct replacement radiator for our TJ. Now the nice thing about this is it's specifically designed for the Hemi-swap in our truck. Want to grab that side, Chris? The 100% aluminum construction of our new radiator will help dissipate heat better than a mixture of plastic and aluminum or copper and brass like a factory radiator. Plus, the full polish looks killer under the hood. And while we were at it, we had Doc's make us some of our AC lines. Now they are a direct fit for the Hemi-swap into the TJ. Since we've been spending the majority of our time today showing you guys all the little things that we're taking care of on our TJ, it's a perfect time to show you how we're going to control the air lockers both front and rear. Now this ARB air locker activation system is not only a small air compressor, it also has an integrated air tank that'll hold just enough air to control the lockers both front and rear. Now it comes with a pre-terminated wiring harness that's set up in a way that you have to engage the rear locker before you can engage the front. That will help keep some parts inside your front axle. Now instead of just mounting the switches up in the dash, we called up Darren, the 12-volt guy, and had him build us a custom switch panel with an integrated winch control as well as all the controls for our lockers. Our custom switch panel mounts right in our dash behind the factory trim. and it also gives us two 12-volt power sources to power things like cell phone chargers. Now the ARB air compressor is going to mount right underneath the seat. Now you guys out there who build Jeeps know that this is the point of time where you've basically run out of room for everything. And that's the case for our battery. The only logical place to mount it in this truck is behind the back seat. Now you don't just want to throw the battery in there with a ratchet strap to hold it in place, because when you're throwing tools in the back, if you short out across the posts, the battery can explode. So the best thing to do is to use a battery box. Now we picked up two of these aluminum Summit Racing battery relocation kits, one to mount the battery in, and then another one to cover up the natural vacuum leak detector that we moved from the other side of this fender well. That'll just protect it from any tools we throw in the back. Now, as you can see, this Jeep has made a huge transformation from an insurance write-off that we just dragged in here basically for free. And the next time we have this Jeep in the shop, we'll have buttoned up all the stuff that's left on it. We'll hit the trail. And we'll hit it hard. That sounded dirty.
That is going to be one sweet payoff. Now Tony's back with us, and Tony, we've got to know, what's your daily driver and what else can we find in your garage?
Daily driver, not so exciting. I have a new Chevy Tahoe with the baby seat in the back, but I am building a 540 horsepower street rod, and that's a great thing being involved with a company like Quaker State. I know they make a full synthetic Q horsepower for the street rod and the Q torque power for the SUV.
Oh, now there's so much that we want to talk to you about. Do you think you can come back next week?
I'd love to.
Nice, all right. Well, to find out where Tony's Quaker State team is racing next, visit our PowerBlock. I'm Courtney Hansen, and we will both see you next weekend.